Hello, I'm Adam from TartyBikes, and here is our guide to cranks and bottom brackets. Okay, the first thing you need to know is that there are two main types of setup. The first one is a square taper, and the second one is called ISIS. Now, the square taper is simply that. It's a square taper. The axle's got 4 flats on it, and it's got a slight angle, so when you tighten the crank arm on, it pushes up and it squeezes itself nice and tight. It's very similar on the ISIS system. It does have a slight taper, so when you tighten the crankbot in, it butts up against this spacer and holds the crank tight. But it has 10 splines or flutes around the outside of the axle. This means the crank and the bottom bracket fit together much more securely and gives a much better power transfer. There are two things to consider when buying a bottom bracket. The first one is the shell width of your frame, which is usually 68mm. There are very, very few trials frames which use a 73mm shell, which is ELA standard. So all the bottom brackets we sell are all 68mm shells. The next thing is the actual length of the bottom bracket axle itself. This is the overall length from one end to the other. This trial bottom bracket is a 127.5mm axle, which is the longest you can buy. Most trials bikes need a super long axle like this to make sure that the freewheel doesn't interact with the bottom bracket cup on this side, and also on some very, very small frames, the crank arm can actually clip the end of the brake cylinder, so you need to make sure that you've got enough clearance at this point as well. Just like bottom brackets, crank arms also come in different lengths. This one is 175mm. That's from the centre of the bottom bracket axle to the centre of the pedal axle. Most riders with 26-inch wheel bikes go for the longest length, 175 or 170mm. Riders on 20-inch mod bikes tend to go for 160 or 165mm cranks, but that's not to say that you can't mix and match the sizes at all. One of the guys that works here currently uses 175s on his 20-inch. The next thing most riders like to consider is the weight or the durability of the crank. Now, some guys like to go for a nice strong crank, such as the Echo crank we have here. These Echo forged cranks have no hollows on the back, so they're nice and strong. They're also very simple to manufacture, so they come in at a really great price. If you want to go a bit more at market, we have cranks such as this, which has a huge cutout in the back and makes them super light. Not quite as durable as some of the heavier cranks, but if you need ultimate performance, these are the ones to go for. And one final thing to mention is that all the cranks we sell, apart from one or two, use a screw-on system for the sprocket or the freewheel. This is different to normal mountain bike cranks, which use a spider for fixing the chainring onto. So make sure you don't get the wrong setup, or else you won't be able to use your bike. Okay, well, we hope that helps. Thanks for watching, and if you have any more questions, don't hesitate to get in touch.